believe me.
Sadat has never overcome his distaste for the city and the restraining walls it imposes. There is not enough room in the garden of his Cairo home. Whenever he can, he retreats to a variety of country residences. Time is his enemy, and a day off with his wife and 2 of the 4 children is rare. He is not a very active man, but here on the edge of the Mediterranean, he and his wife, Jihan, take long walks. She is his second wife. He divorced his first in the late 1940s and met Jihan, who is half English, a short while later. What did she say when you first asked her if she would marry you?
Well, she agreed at once. She agreed, in spite of the fact that there is a difference in age between us.
You were just irresistible.
I was admiring him so much because he was very faithful to his country, his loyalty to his country.
The Sadats have 4 children, 2 married, 2 others, Nana and Gamal, still living at home. There is little time for the children, and they often resent it.
I want him to work with me, solve my problems, you know. I like to sit with him, you know. I don't sit with him too much because of his work. And I miss him.
At home, Mrs. Sadat is the disciplinarian and usually takes the lead in family matters. Jihan Sadat is a leading Egyptian figure. She understands the real depths of the country's social problems.
She worries always, but she is very kind-hearted, and she is a real help.
No matter where a Muslim is, he has obligations. Whether in a mosque or in his living room, Sadat prays 5 times a day. Sadat's faith and obvious devotion to Islam has enhanced his image as a leader with other Arabs. During our visit, an afternoon in the country included a visit to his beach house. The president does not move even here without a strong detachment of bodyguards. Again, the president did little. He shuddered a little when his children raced by in their latest acquisition. He prefers to just sit and read. But sometimes his wife talks him into backgammon. She was winning, and he was pleasantly relieved when the Minister of Defense and his wife came by for a visit. Sadat does not have time for many close friends. He and Ahmed Ismail have been friends since they were young officers and joined the revolution. Revolution came naturally to Sadat, but he was not in government when the officers solidified their power.
I don't like the administration. I don't like it. It is something in my blood. I used to say to Nasser, I can help you, but I don't want to be a minister or something like that. I can help you from my stand in anywhere.
Because Sadat was not publicly apparent as part of Nasser's inner circle, most people judged him to be of little influence. Nasser's presidency, however, was marked by constant power struggles. The villager knew how to survive. Sadat returned to his old job as a journalist. He wrote a book on the revolution. We know now that he never lost contact with Nasser.
The others, when they disagree with him, they declare it and they make a show of it. But I disagreed with him, but we used to discuss this either at his home or at my home, and we used to have very hot discussions.
Nasser electrified and sometimes frightened the world. Sadat's style is different and many believe more effective.
President Nasser was, of course, in many ways the movie star of the Arab world, and his image still dominates a great deal of thought about the proper way of moving toward the future. President Sadat is a quieter man. He's more of a father figure. He's more of the ideal Egyptian villager.
Sadat served Nasser faithfully, often as a spokesman in foreign capitals.
I remember once when he was on his way to America, and people were worrying if he was going to make boo-boos all over the place. And an American friend of Nasser's said, well, I don't think Anwar Sadat is smart enough to make any serious mistakes. He's bound to just go over there and be a genial boob everywhere. Nasser turned to this American and said contemptuously, have you ever heard of Gohar? Now, do you know who Gohar is? Gohar is the man in a sort of an Aesop's fable character in Arabic literature who acts like he's a fool, a buffoon, and really, while he's making you think he's a buffoon, he's removed your gold teeth from you without you realizing it. That's what Nasser meant.
For all his travels and apparent worldliness today, it is his village which draws him back. It is only here where Sadat sheds his tailored suits and French ties for his native Galabeya. He lives in the village's only large house. Even as president, he has done little to change the other side of the street. It is much today as it has always been. This is no longer the place where Sadat can walk unnoticed, but at least this his family and the press of the crowd bothers him less. Here he is not so much president of Egypt as he is village elder, the boy who made good. Here Sadat hears blunt complaints about village problems and well-intended admonitions about his health. He relishes the role of patriarch, here and for Egypt as a whole. The villagers and he communicate easily.
Sadat's an Alabama politician. If you want to understand Sadat, understand John Sparkman from Alabama, a man who is highly educated, highly intelligent, but who knows how to say ain't. So if there's just a faint trace of quotes around it, so that if he's talking to someone who says ain't, they won't notice the quote, but someone who knows better, they will notice the quote. I'd say Anwar Sadat's that kind of a man. He aspires to be pretty much what he is.
It would be an insult for Sadat to visit the village without seeing an even older man, the teacher who taught him religion as a youth. Sadat says he will retire here in 1976, but not many people believe him. Politics is in his blood. Those who oppose him believe he will not easily relinquish power. Those who support him say he couldn't walk away from the problems of Egypt. Whatever the case, Sadat is convincing about the burdens of the presidency.
I have lost everything. I have lost my freedom. I have lost my life as an ordinary man that can walk whenever he feels like it, or stops working when he feels like it. I have lost all this.
Sadat the villager, Sadat the passionate nationalist, came to power suddenly. Though perhaps only he felt it for certain, his emergence as an Arab leader of note began the day that Nasser died in 1970.
You know, we thought at one time this man will never die. And because we were in such a mess, and we were humiliated, and we were injured, we have put all our burden on the shoulders of Nasser. It was a great shock for me, really a great shock. I couldn't continue at that day.
Sadat as president faced many of the same problems which had existed at the time of the revolution. The British had long ago signed an agreement to leave Egypt, but there were still foreign troops on Egyptian soil. Since the June War of 1967, the Israelis had occupied virtually all of Sinai. Sadat knew he must deal with Israeli occupation, but first he moved to establish his credentials at home. After 18 years of relative obscurity, few Egyptians knew much about this man. Those who thought they did believed he was easily manipulated.
I think the most difficult time was when he took power, and he discovered that he was surrounded by unfaithful lieutenants who tried to use him and to make him a stamp president, not a genuine president. And I think these people didn't know Sadat.
Sadat's first major crisis led to the purge of his opposition. An attempted coup led by the Vice President Ali Sabri failed almost as soon as it began. Sabri, seen here at his subsequent trial, was convicted and is still in prison.